I'm going to be reading for 15 minutes this book, Atomic Habits by James Clear. I'm on page 48. I have a bookmark with myself, and I don't really remember what I read last because it's been a few days, but I keep making notes wherever possible. I keep making notes, marking stuff. So I'm probably going to go back a little bit and just make some notes, and maybe not make notes but just read. So I'm putting a timer for, let's try and hit 20 minutes. I put a 20-minute timer. Start. Started. This fourth step is the backbone of every habit, and your brain runs through these steps in the same order each time. First, there is the cue. The cue triggers your brain to initiate behavior. It is a bit of information that predicts a reward. Our prehistoric ancestors were paying attention to cues that signaled the location of primary rewards like food, water, and sex. Today, we spend most of our time learning cues that predict secondary rewards like money, fame, power, and status, praise and approval, love and friendship, or some sense of personal satisfaction. Of course, these pursuits also indirectly improve our odds of survival and reproduction, which is the deeper motive behind everything we do. Your mind is continuously analyzing your internal and external environment for hints of where rewards are located, because the cue is the first indication that we're close to a reward. It naturally leads to a craving. Cravings are the second step, and they're the motivational force behind every habit. Without some level of motivation or desire, without craving a change, we have no reason to act. What you crave is not the habit itself, but the change in state it delivers. You do not crave smoking a cigarette, you crave the feeling of relief it provides. You are not motivated by brushing your teeth, but rather by the feeling of having a clean mouth. You do not want to turn on the television, you want to be entertained. Every craving is linked to a desire to change your internal state. This is an important point that we will discuss in later. Cravings differ from person to person. In theory, any piece of information could trigger a craving, but in practice, people are not motivated by the same cues. For a gambler, the sound of slot machines can be a potent trigger that sparks an intense wave of desire. For someone who rarely gambles, the jingles and chimes of the casino are just background noise. Cues are meaningless until they are interpreted. The thoughts, feelings, and emotions of the observer are what transform a cue into a craving. So we had the cue, the craving, and the third step is response. The response is the actual habit you perform, which can take the form of thought or an action. Whether a response occurs depends on how motivated you are and how much friction is associated with the behavior. If a particular action requires more physical or mental effort than you are willing to expand, then you won't do it. If a particular action requires more physical or mental effort than you're willing to expend, then you won't do it. Your response also depends on your ability. It sounds simple, but a behavior can only occur only if you're capable of doing it. If you want to dunk a basketball but can't jump high enough to reach the hoop, well, you're out of luck. Finally, the response delivers a reward. Rewards are the end goal of every habit. The cue is about noticing the reward, the craving is about wanting the reward, the response is about obtaining the reward. We chase rewards because they serve two purposes: they satisfy us and they teach us. The first purpose of rewards is to satisfy your craving. Yes, rewards provide benefits on their own. Food and water deliver the energy you need to survive. Getting a promotion brings more money and respect. Getting in shape improves your health and your dating prospects. But the more immediate benefit is that rewards, but the more immediate benefit is that rewards satisfy a craving to eat or to gain status or to win approval. At least for a moment, rewards deliver contentment and relief from craving. Second, rewards teach us which actions are worth remembering in the future. Your brain is a reward detector. As you go about your life, your sensory nervous system is continuously monitoring which actions satisfy desires and deliver pleasure. Feelings of pleasure and disappointment are part of the feedback mechanism that helps your brain distinguish useful actions from useless ones. Rewards close the feedback loop and complete the habit cycle. If a behavior is insufficient in any of the four stages, it will not become a habit. Eliminate the cues and your habit will never start. Reduce the craving and you won't experience enough motivation to act. Make the behavior difficult and you won't be able to do it. And if the reward fails to satisfy desire, then you'll have no reason to do it again in the future. Without the first three steps, a behavior will not occur. Without all four, a behavior will not repeat. The habit loop starts with a cue, then goes to the craving, then goes to response, and then reward. The four stages of habit are best described as a feedback loop, the form of endless cycle that is running every moment that you're alive. The habit loop is continually scanning the environment, predicting what happens next, trying out different responses, and learning from results. In summary, the cue triggers a craving, which motivates a response, which provides a reward, which satisfies this craving, and ultimately becomes associated with the cue. Without the reward, you will not want to do it again. Together, the four steps form a neurological feedback loop: cue, craving, response, reward. Charles Duhigg and Neer Ayal deserve special recognition for their influence on this image. This representation of habit loop is a combination of language that was popularized by Duhigg's book, The Power of Habit, and a design that was popularized by Ayal's book, Hooked. Cue, craving, response, reward that ultimately allows you to create automatic habits. This cycle is known as the habit loop. This four-step process is not something that happens occasionally, but rather it is an endless feedback loop that is running and active during every moment you're alive. Even now, the brain is continually scanning the environment, predicting what will happen next, trying out different responses, and learning from the results. The entire process is completed in a split second, and we use it again and again without realizing everything that has packed into the previous moment. We can split these four steps into two phases: the problem phase and the solution phase. The problem phase includes the cue and the craving, and it is when you realize that something needs to change. The solution phase includes response and reward, and it is when you take action and achieve the change you desire. So, the problem phase and solution phase. All behavior is driven by the desire to solve a problem. Sometimes the problem is that you notice something good and you want to obtain it. Sometimes the problem is that you're experiencing pain and you want to relieve it. Either way, the purpose of every habit is to solve the problems you face. In the table on the following page, you can see a few examples of what it looks like in real life. For example, your phone buzzes with a new text message. This is the cue. Craving. You want to learn the contents of the message. You response. You grab your phone and read the text. Reward. You satisfy your craving to read the message. Grabbing your phone becomes associated with your phone buzzing. So, problem phase was your phone buzzed and you wanted to know what the contents are. It was the cue and the craving. You solve the problem by picking your phone up and you satisfy yourself. So, the response and the reward. And when you grab your phone, it becomes associated with your phone buzzing. All behavior is driven by the desire to solve a problem. Sometimes the problem is that you notice something good and you want to obtain it. Sometimes the problem is that you're experiencing something bad, experiencing pain, and you want to relieve it. Imagine walking into a dark room, flipping on the light switch. You've performed this simple habit so many times that it occurs without thinking. You proceed through all four stages in the fraction of a second. The urge to act strikes you without thinking. By the second time, we become adults. By the time we become adults, we rarely notice the habits that are running our lives. Most of us never give a second thought to the fact that we tie the same shoe first each morning. We don't realize that every morning we are tying the same shoe first, whether it's the left or the right one, but we're always choosing that same uh, shoe, the left or the right one. Or unplug the toaster after each use, or always change into comfortable clothes after getting home from work. After decades of mental programming, we automatically slip into these patterns of thinking and acting. You can pause this to read this page if it's readable. These are just examples. Hopefully, it's readable. Okay, the four laws of behavior change. In the following chapters, we will see time and again how the four stages of cue, craving, response, and reward influence nearly everything we do each day. But before we do that, we need to transform these four steps into practical framework that we can use to design good habits and eliminate the bad ones. I prefer this framework as the four laws of behavior change. I refer to this framework as the four laws of behavior change, and it provides a simple set of rules for creating good habits and breaking bad ones. You can think of each law as a lever that influences human behavior. When these when the levers are in the right positions, the creating good habits is effortless. When they're in the wrong positions, it's nearly impossible. Okay, so how to create a good habit? The first law, which is the cue, you have to make your cue obvious. Second law, craving, make it attractive. Third law, response, make it easy. Fourth law, reward, make it satisfying. We can invert these laws to learn how to break a bad habit. Inversion of the first law, cue, make it invisible. Inversion of the second law, craving, make it unattractive. This is how to break a bad habit. Inversion of the third law, response, make it difficult. Fourth law, reward, make it unsatisfying. It would be irresponsible for me to claim that these four laws are an exhaustive framework for changing any human behavior, but I think they're close. As you will soon see, the four laws of behavior change apply to nearly every field, from sports to politics, art to medicine, comedy to management. These laws can be used no matter what challenge you are facing. There is no need for completely different strategies for each habit. When you want to change your behavior, you can simply ask yourself, how can I make it obvious? How can I make it attractive? How can I make it easy? And how can I make it satisfying? If you have ever wondered, why don't I do what I say I'm going to do? Why don't I lose weight or stop smoking or save the retirement or save for retirement or start the side business? Why do I say something is important but never seem to make time for it? The answer to those questions can be found somewhere in these four laws. The key to creating good habits and breaking bad ones is to understand that these fundamental laws and how to alter them to your specifications. The key to creating good habits and breaking bad ones is to understand these fundamental laws and how to alter them to your specifications. Every goal is doomed to fail if it goes against the grain of human nature. Your habits are shaped by the systems in your life. In the chapters that follow, we will discuss these laws one by one and show you how you can use them to create a system in which good habits emerge naturally and bad ones wither away. So this is that table. You can pause this here. And the chapter summary is as follows. A habit is a behavior that has been repeated enough times to become automatic. The ultimate purpose of having habits is to solve the problems of life with as little energy and effort as possible. Any habit can be broken down into feedback loop that involves four steps: cue, craving, response, and reward. The four laws of behavior change are simple sets of rules you can use to build better habits. They are: make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. First law: make it obvious. I'm actually gonna pause this. I have 3 minutes 43 seconds left. I just want to go back because this was one full chapter. And I want to just so there were like lots of things here. Before I go further on, I want to end the video here on the note of what the chapters look like. So we started with the fundamentals, why tiny changes make a big difference. First part in this chapter is the surprising power of atomic habits, how your habits shape your identity and vice versa, how to build better habits in 4 simple steps. This is what I've read till now. In the fundamentals, the first part, if we flip to that real quick, I feel like the intro to the book is crazy. How and why I wrote this book, how I learned about habits, my recovery. The story, the introduction is insane. It hooks you, it really hooks you. The surprising power of atomic habits, why small habits make a big difference. It talks about becoming 1% better every day. Habits are the compound interest of self improvement. We make a few changes, but the results never seem to come quickly, so we slide back into our previous routines. Right? Lagging measure. Your outcomes are a lagging measure of your habits. It doesn't matter how successful or unsuccessful you are right now. What matters is whether your habits are putting you on the path towards success. If you want to predict where you'll end up in life, all you have to do is follow the curve of tiny gains or tiny losses and see how your daily choices will compound 20 years down the line. Are you spending less than you earn each month? Are you making it into the gym each week? Are you reading books and learning something new each day? Tiny battles like this are the ones that will define your future self. Your habits can compound for you or against you. Positive compounding. Productivity compounds. Accomplish one extra task is a small feat on any given day, but it counts for a lot over an entire career. The effect of automating an old task or mastering a new one New skill can be even greater. The more tasks you can handle without thinking, the more your brain is free to focus on other areas. Knowledge compounds. Learning one new idea won't make you a genius, but commitment to lifelong learning can be transformative. Furthermore, each book you read not only teaches you something new, but also opens up different ways of thinking about old ideas. As Warren Buffett says, that's how knowledge works. It builds up like compound interest. Relationship compound. People reflect your behavior back to you. The more you help others, the more others want to help you. Being a little nicer in each interaction can result in a network of broad and strong connections over time. Habits can compound you again for you or against you. Now we're going to go for the negative compounding. Stress compounds. The frustration of a traffic jam, the weight of parenting responsibilities, the worry of making ends meet, the strain of slightly higher blood pressure. By themselves, these common causes of stress are manageable, but when they persist for years, little stresses compound into serious health issues. Negative thoughts compound. The more you think of yourself as worthless, stupid, ugly, the more you condition yourself to interpret life that way. You get trapped in a thought loop. The same is true for how you think about others. Once you fall into the habit of seeing people as angry, unjust, or selfish, you see those kind of people elsewhere. Outrage compounds, riots, protests, and mass movements are rarely the result of a single event. Instead, a long series of microaggressions and daily aggravations slowly multiply until one event tips the scales, and outrage spreads like wildfire. So if you want to take a screenshot of this, okay, I'll start from the top. Then this, and then this. I'm just reading whatever I've underlined. So this was a part of the surprising power of atomic habits. What progress is really like. Habits need to persist long enough to break through this plateau, the plateau of latent potential. When you finally break the plateau of latent potential, people will call it overnight success. This is another graph which you might want to read. It's actually very interesting. Right? Um, Forget about goals, focus on system instead. Making actionable goals. Goals are about the result you want to achieve. Systems are the process that lead to those results. For example, if you're a coach, your goal might be to win a championship. Your system is the way you recruit players, manage your assistant coaches, and conduct practices. Another example can be if you're a musician, your goal might be to play a new piece. Your system is how often you practice, how you break down and tackle difficult measures meaning the time signature, and your method for receiving feedback from your instructor. The goal in any sport is to finish with the best score, but it would be ridiculous to spend the whole game staring at the scoreboard. The only way to actually win is to get better each day. In other words, of three-time Super Bowl winner Bill Walsh, the score takes care of itself. A handful of problems arise when you spend too much time thinking about your goals and not enough time designing your system. Problem 1. Winners and losers have the same goals. Problem 2. Achieving a goal is only a momentary change. You treat a symptom without addressing the cause. You need to solve problems at the system level. Fix the inputs and the outputs will fix itself. Problem 3. Goals restrict your happiness. Once I reach my goal, I'll be happy. This is what people assume what a goal is. The problem with goal first mentality is that you're continually putting happiness off until the next milestone. So goals are an either or conflict. Either you achieve your goal or are successful, or you fail and you're a disappointment. You mentally box yourself into a narrow version of happiness. This is misguided. A system first mentality provides the antidote. So we have to fix the system. Problem 4, goals are at odds with long term progress. The true long term thinking is goal less thinking, right? These are just a few things that I've underlined. Coming into part 2, which talks about how your habits shape your identity. Before that, this was like the mini chapter summary. Um, Sometimes you try to change the wrong things. Three layers of behavior change. First layer is changing your outcomes, second layer is changing your process, third layer and the deepest layer is changing your identity. And then there are two approaches. You have to move from in to out, which is from the identity. Change your identity, which in other words you can say fake it till you make it. Um, I'm already rich, so my process is going to be different and my outcomes are going to change as a result of that. If you want to make more money, but if your identity is of someone who consumes rather than creates, then you'll continue to be pulled towards spending rather than earning. Undesirable grooming ritual. One day I resolved to stop chewing my nails until they grew out a bit. The mindful willpower alone, I managed to do it. Then Clark said something surprising. I asked my wife to schedule my first ever manicure. He said, my thought was if I started paying to maintain my nails, I wouldn't chew them, and it worked. But not for the momentary reason. What happened was the manicure made my fingers really look nice for the first time. The manicurist even said, other than chewing, I had really healthy, attractive nails. Suddenly I was proud of my fingernails, and even though that's something I've never aspired to do, it made all the difference. It's something very different to say I'm the type of person who is this. True behavior change is identity change. You simply act you are simply acting like the type of person you already believe yourself to be, right? How can you emphasize new aspects of your identity that serve you and gradually erase the pieces that hinder you? In fact, the word identity was originally derived from the Latin word essentias, which means being, identidium, identidum, which means repeatedly. Your identity is literally your repeated beingness. So once you repeat something, it becomes your identity. The more evidence you have for a belief, the more strongly you will believe it. I became one through my habits. I became something through my habits. I want to become a reader through my habits. It's almost gonna be 30 minutes. I'm gonna quickly run through these. This is one reason why meaningful change does not require radical change. You do not need to be perfect. You do not need an unanimous vote to win. Unanimous ऐसे बोलते हैं. Unanimous vote to win an election. You just need a majority. It does not matter if you cast a few votes for a bad behavior or an unproductive habit. Your goal is to simply win the majority of the time, right? So um you don't need to, for example, brushing your teeth. You don't need to brush your teeth every day twice, but you should brush your teeth once for 15 days out of the whole month. Or no, actually once every day of the month or twice a day, but for 15 days. So the majority, 15 or 16 days. So the majority of the time you're actually are brushing your teeth and you are grooming yourself. Um, Decide the type of person you want to be. Prove it to yourself by with small wins. That's fine. Start there and work backwards from results you want to the type of person you could be to get the results. Ask yourself, who is the type of person that could get the outcome that I want? For example, who is the type of person who uh, would have more money saved up, a type of person who consumes less and creates more. Mm, Fundamentally, habits are not about having something, they're about becoming someone. So the chapter summary again, there are three levels of change: outcome change, process change, and identity change. The most effective way to change your habits is to focus on what you want to achieve, but not who you wish to become. The most effective way to change your habits is to focus on not what you want to achieve, not the goal, but who you wish to become. So you change your process, you change your system, your identity emerges out of your habits. Every action is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. Becoming the best version of yourself, because becoming the best version of yourself requires you to continuously edit your beliefs and to upgrade and expand your identity. The real reason habits matter is not because they get you better results, although they can do that, but because they can change your beliefs about yourself. Third chapter is how to build better habits in 4 simple steps. Then we came to cue, craving, response, and reward. The problem phase, the solution phase. You hit a stumbling block on a project at work. You feel stuck. You feel stuck and want to relieve your frustration. You pull out your phone and check social media. You satisfy your craving to feel relieved. Checking social media becomes associated with feeling stalled at work. So these small things really make a big difference. It's for example, someone wanting to vape, right? Why do you want to vape? Is it just because that feeling of breathing or taking something in? Is it the feeling of having a flavor? Is it a feeling of, I don't know, just having something in your lungs? Instead, just try and breathe. Take a straw, cut the straw, you'll feel better. Um, there are multiple ways to get rid of something, You want to change the cue, you divert your attention. And with that, this is my bookmark. It's my MDP. My MDP is my major design project of my um, graduation project was called Still and Sound. Maybe this helps you. It says, while you listen, watch and remember, where did you find the space to breathe? Something you can probably think about. I have finished about 59 pages, 60 pages of this book. This book is gonna be crazy. Learning a lot. It costs only like 900 rupees, and I feel having a physical book is much better because, yeah, I mean, you can actually make notes, you know.